A quick recap on Saturday. Obviously, Miami played very well. We learned a lot from the game, and we've moved on to Navy. This weekend, we've got 26 academic seniors and or graduates that will be honored before the game, and some are playing in their last home game at Notre Dame. So, very important game, obviously, for them and for our football team, and important for us to, get back to playing to our standard. And that standard is set by the jerseys and the uniforms that we'll be wearing. We're wearing Rockney uniforms, and there isn't a better name that you could be wearing that has set the standard of excellence for Notre Dame football. So getting back to that standard of excellence will be worn, and it certainly is what we've talked about relative to refocusing our football team on playing to a standard that we had set this year. So Navy, first of all, it's about getting back to our traits, and you have to have an incredible attention to detail when you play Navy and their offense. I think everybody knows quite well how prolific they are and how difficult they are to stop. They do things offensively that teams each and every week struggle to defend. And the other thing you have to do is you have to beat a lot of one-on-one blocks. You have to play physical. You have to be able to get off blocks. You have to be able to make tackles against a very good and well-disciplined football team, a team that fights for 4 quarters. They've won close games. They manage the clock very well. They play smart football. It'll be a great challenge for us. Offensively, we have to be able to score. Last year, obviously we scored, but we didn't score touchdowns. You have to score touchdowns. You have to finish off your drives. You have to be extremely efficient, and that's what their offense forces you to do, is to be extremely efficient on offense. And we got to find a way to take the football away. We haven't done that. We didn't do that last week. We've got to get the football, take it away, and revert back to some of the things that we were doing defensively. And if we can get some turnovers and get some points relative to touchdowns instead of field goals, then we'll put ourselves in a much better position against a very good opponent. So with that, we'll open it up to questions.
Brian, with this being Mike Elko's first time going against Navy that I know of, he went against Army. Does that help? I mean, seeing that concept for 3 years in a row playing Army, does that help with his preparation?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there are similar tenets there, certainly. Having the understanding of that, and his background is that he's had to stop option teams before, Georgia Southern. He's been in the option system, and that was something that we vetted out in the interviewing process. So I'm very comfortable with what we'll be doing in terms of this isn't a defensive coordinator that's coming in inexperienced in terms of stopping the option.
Temple had a really good game plan against them a couple of weeks ago, and I guess if it was copyable, SMU would have done the same thing and had the same result. Mm-hmm. I mean, do they just adjust so much from game to game that it's difficult to get a template for them? Yeah,
they have so many formations, so many different looks. They made a change, obviously, at the quarterback position. After the Temple game, they had a bye week, and they made a change there. So, and that made a huge difference to, their running game. Clearly they are always looking to make some adjustments, and you have to be prepared for every look for the last 10 years. They did some things against us 2 years ago that we hadn't seen in 6, 7 years. So you have to be able to adjust and sometimes adjust on the fly.
You've gotten some pretty good mileage out of some of the kids that you got very late in the recruiting cycle last year, and Myron's one of them. What's he kind of brought to the table? Has he surprised you at all in the way he's played, and what's still ahead for him?
Yeah, again, when we recruit somebody to Notre Dame, I don't think that we're ever surprised. I think what really is kind of the thing that we evaluate players on is their readiness in terms of how quickly are they going to be able to contribute. So we felt like he was going to be a really good football player for us. When could he take his physical traits and apply them? And I thought he was able to translate them right away. And I think we were really pleasantly surprised that he could do that right away. He had the size, he had the physicality, but can you learn our defense and apply it right away? And so that's that football IQ, that's that, that awareness that he took and ran with immediately when he got to camp, and that was a pleasant surprise for us.
Is that some of it the product of the high school program that he came from?
Not necessarily as much as it's to the individual, and just, look, I think there's the old adage about a defensive line. How do you get them to get off a block? You just have to yell louder. And sometimes guys just have that sense and awareness to get off blocks, and he just has a great first step. If you look back on some of the key plays that he's made this year, it's been by penetration. And so one of his really unique skills is that he has that quickness off the ball.
Last one from me. Dexter's been banged up off and on for a long time, and Josh, it seems like he's been getting nicked. What does it look like for those two going into their last home game this season?
I knock on wood, this looks to be the best week that we've had with them in terms of the medical report. Josh shows no ill effects from an ankle, a head, or neck, and Dexter had the quad contusion, which was limiting, and it was the best that he's felt. So we're hopeful that all of the backs are in a better position than they have been at any time this year.
Brian, front row. One of those seniors, Greer Martini, is a guy that we probably don't talk about as much, but why was he a good choice for a captain before the season, and what has he meant to the program?
Well, I think, when you talk about captains, one of the dynamics that you're looking for is selflessness. And here's a guy that plays on all of our special teams. And, one of the things that we want to instill in our players is the ability to not just play on your own offensive, defensive unit, but how you can do anything and any job to help your football team. And that's Ben Greer. Since he's gotten here, he's done whatever we've asked him to do. So we thought that not only is he well respected because of his character traits and obviously well respected in our community here at Notre Dame, but as a player, he does all the jobs for you. And that can be mirrored quite well within your football team. And he's been a great captain because of that.
Then you mentioned Navy with the quarterback change last week, and any one of three guys could start a quarterback for them this week. How much do they tailor that option to the guy who's playing quarterback, and how difficult is that for you when you're not sure who it's going to be?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's clearly a little bit of a difference, in terms of who they are with, their quarterback situation. So, just looking at their numbers, Zach right now is their leading rusher. And if you go by, just looking at that, you'd say, all right, how do you defend him? And, he's difficult in itself, but, Malcolm Perry, runs for over, 200 and they rush for 556. So, you got two quarterbacks of different style, but one's the leading rusher that didn't play last week because he's banged up. And then, Malcolm Perry comes in and rushes for over 200. So obviously you have to be able to play the triple option. You still have to be able to play both of them out, and that's what makes them very difficult to defend.
Brian, have you been able to, with the uniqueness of the Navy offense, have you spent any time getting the players acclimated to it, considering what you usually go up against every week?
Yeah, we've spent a little time on it. In our bye week, we took a full practice session to work on it. So the guys have the basic tenets of how we're going to be lined up, the defensive fronts, coverages, movement, schemes, and then we'll go full go at it, over the next 3 days.
Flipping to the offense, what things in the running offense off of last week do you think you need to maybe emphasize or clean up after last week?
I think it's just a matter of, executing better and in all fronts. There's no, major overhaul of anything other than we just got to be better in our execution. And, that's all 11 players. It's not just one guy here or there. It's just the execution, of our entire offense. And it's not just, the run game. It's run game, pass game. It's tempo. It's all those things. We were never in, other than maybe the first drive, in a good flow of the game. And so it's just going back, and our preparation this week will be about, that attention to detail that's necessary to run the offense the way it needs to be run.
Brian, in terms of what you learned last weekend, how much of it is really applicable just based on the environment that you walked into on Saturday night?
Well, we learned a lot from the environment.
Okay.
I think that was a great lesson to be learned. And so, we're still on the same mission, and, that doesn't change. Our mission is to win a national championship. Whether, we have a chance to win that this year, it doesn't change the fact that that's still the same mission. And what we learned in that game is going to help this team and these guys that are in this program when we're put in that situation again. And so there was a great amount of learning that was taken from that game because of that environment.
How much, when you talked to Brandon after the game, the hand, I think I might have asked you this on Saturday, but, taking snaps directly under center or mesh point. I mean,
Pete, I really don't believe any of that had a factor in the turnovers and the execution. He has not brought that to my attention. It has not been something that our trainers have brought to our attention as an issue. So, we feel like we just got to go back and work on the preparation, and that's going to be the focus this week.
And Nick Coleman, just in terms of the season that he's had, going from a guy that, had never really played that position up until spring to really sort of being a consistent performer for you back there. How impressed have you been with the way he's
very pleased? Yeah, very pleased with Nick. And I think if you take and go back to last year where Nick was essentially, pulled from the starting lineup after the Texas game and then tried to find a role as a nickelback, and now to play at the consistent level that he has, I think we would be, saying that this is a really good year for him, and I think it comes from consistency. He's been a consistent player for us.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Brian over here. I think after the game, you used USC as an example of how you'd like to see your team respond in terms of taking on a tough loss and flushing it and moving forward. It's early in the week, but to what extent have you seen what you wanted to see?
Well, regardless of a win or loss, we use Monday to refocus. Our team has been refocused. What happened on Saturday is behind them, and we're back to work. We went back to work yesterday, and our guys are clearly focused on the preparation for Navy. There's a 24-hour rule that they have to abide by, and they went through that process, and we're ready now to take on a really good football team in Navy and get back to the traits that have gotten them to 8-2, and that's going to be important because they're going to need them on Saturday.
Is it perplexing you at all that last week you thought they demonstrated those traits throughout the week like they had most of the season, yet on Saturday they didn't show up?
You know, like I said, I mean, Miami played really well. You know, they played really well. And, you know, we've kind of put it behind us. And so we've moved on. I haven't given Miami much thought, you know, since Sunday. I've been focused on Navy at this point.
How do you evaluate what Mike McGlinchey's meant to this program over the last 5 years?
You know, I think it's easy to point to his football accolades, but, you know, he's what you want from a student athlete at Notre Dame, graduates, stays to play with his teammates, captains his football team, you know, for 2 years. I just think he embodies all of the traits that we look for here at Notre Dame, not just in our student athletes, but in our students. And that's what he means to this university. We can be really proud of him and not even look at his jersey number. He's really that model of the man behind the jersey, more so than you know, the number on the jersey.
Coach, up here. You mentioned earlier that you guys are going to need to finish drives this weekend in order to beat Navy, but you guys only had 6 possessions last year. So what can you guys do this year to make sure that you got more chances to score the ball?
Get off the field defensively, right? It starts there. You know, we're in a different year, right? We're in a different year. So each year you look at, you know, what you're doing defensively, and we've been much better on third down, much better in, you know, taking the football away. We got to get back to playing that kind of defense where we're much more aggressive, where we're defeating individual blocks and making plays on third down to get off the field. We need more than 6 possessions. 6 possessions is not going to do it. It's too razor thin. So creating that mindset on defense and you know, giving us the opportunity offensively to have more possessions.
And comparing this to last week, I guess, going back through the tape, did you have any different ideas about your decision to punt the ball on your first drive when you guys are in their territory? I mean, obviously a different environment going to be this weekend.
I don't know. What are you referring to?
When you guys punted, I guess, your first drive driving into Miami territory?
I'm not sure. I can't remember. The Miami game, are you talking about this past
weekend? Yeah.
Past weekend, punting the football. I kind of put that out of my memory, so I'm sorry. I'd have to watch the film again, and I'm not that interested in watching it again.
Coach.
Yes.
Just following up with the 6 possessions, we talk a lot always about the triple option taxing the defense mentally. Does it do the same to your offense in the sense that there's this urgency that you have to score a touchdown almost every possession if you are limited to 6, sometimes 8 or 9 possessions?
There's no doubt about it that plays on, you know, how you go about your game plan, and you have to take advantage of every opportunity that you possess the football. So, you know, how you play call, your 4th down situations, punt, no punt. There's no question that when you go into this game, that affects you. Now, you can't let that affect the way you play the game. I mean, your guys got to play with a mindset that they're out there to attack and make plays. But as a play caller, no question that you've got to be thinking in those terms that I must possess the ball, I must finish drives, and I must finish them with 7 points. There's no question about that.
The last 2, you've been very effective against the run through the first 2 months. The last 2 weeks, 237 yards, 239 yards. You're facing the number one offense in rushing in the country, and 2 weeks later you're facing the number one running back in terms of rushing yards.
Well, I don't think we should play these 2 games then. It doesn't sound good. You're making it sound worse.
Where do you need to upgrade or improve that run defense, especially? What holes have you seen that need to be addressed?
We have to have a better attention to detail. Our fits have got to be better. We got to get off blocks. We got to get back to that mentality of, dominating, those one-on-one matchups. You got to win some matchups. And, we had guys in position to make plays. We got to simply make the plays. So, look, they ran their first half running attack was one that we felt really comfortable that we should be more effective with. We simply got to be better in our preparation and coach our guys better, go back and make sure that we're teaching him the fundamentals so we can make the plays necessary. So there's no high science here. There's nothing that can't be prepared during practice for us to get back to playing the kind of run defense we need to play. Simply stated.
What do you think changed in the last 2 weeks where you...
Well, I don't know that anything changed as much as, we got guys that, are 18 to 21. And, there's a lot of factors. And so they've got to focus on their job. They have to stay focused, and they have to have an attention to detail, and they have to really be locked in on their traits. And that's my job, to get our guys locked back on those things. And we'll do that this week.
And then you also, first 8 games, forced 17 turnovers, 2 a game. And last 3, the 2 big ones you had against both Wake Forest and North Carolina State, Julian Love interceptions, were huge. Unable to generate any against Miami. You haven't been as effective with the turnover things.
Yeah, again, I mean, if we're teaching strip sack every day, right? If we execute the technique the right way, we're probably going to get a strip sack. We have a ball that's in the air, we gotta catch it. So we're right there. We're going to get our turnovers. We were right there. We didn't make a couple of plays that we have been making, but we're going to get back at it on the practice field. We're going to keep, teaching and trust our teaching, and our guys will get back to making those plays.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Brian, up here.
Yeah.
Obviously, a lot of people, BAM-wise, are feeling like the season is over. I'm just curious I know that, actually, let's start there. How difficult is that when you have a buzz around your program and then maybe it's not there anymore?
It really doesn't, it's not what we're about, It's, I think I was, Coach of the Year 2 weeks ago, and then there's firebk.com, right? We don't live in that world. We coach and develop our players on a day-to-day basis to the mission of our university and to the mission of our football program, and that is to graduate all of our players and play for a national championship. So, every day we're working on the traits to develop our players. Miami played really well. We didn't play to our level. We're back at it this week, and we'll get back at it this week, and we'll play hard for Notre Dame. And that's really what we invest ourselves with on a day-to-day basis. We can't get caught up in anything else. And so that is left up for other people to judge.
And obviously, national championship would be the percentages are very low for this year. But would getting to a New Year's Six bowl game, getting to 10 wins in the regular season, are those goals that your team would be very invested in for the final 2 weeks of the season?
Look, clearly, the most important thing for our guys right now is to get back on the winning ways, right? They can count. They know how important it is to win and win games, and they know if they win football games, then good things will happen down the road. you know, we were 7-2 and then, or 7-1, and they put us up there and they said how great we were, and then we haven't played quite as well. So what we've done is we've refocused our guys back on day to day, and we've been really good when it's been day to day. So that's really been the focus this week is let's just get back to each day and let's have a great Tuesday. And then whatever happens later, then that's great, you know, because it's really about, you know, your preparation. And if you do a great job, you've seen how well you've played, and then they'll all love you again. So let's just work on preparation on Tuesday and Wednesday, and send our seniors off, you know, on Saturday to a win. They deserve that. They've done a great job of redirecting our program back to where it needs to be, and that's really, really the most important thing.
Finally, for me, after the game, Sunday teleconference today, you've had a different, I guess, mood about you in terms of how you handled the loss with the media and with what we saw with the team in the locker room. I was just curious if you took this loss in a different way than previous ones you've had over the years.
I'm not sure what my mood was after the game, but I was not feeling very well. So maybe it was perceived differently. I take all losses very hard because I put so much time, just like all of our coaches do. Every loss is very, very difficult because of all the time and effort. And you want to win for your kids. They wanted to win so bad. I mean, so bad. So you take them, you know, very hard. But you also have to have a message to your team as to, you know, what needs to happen moving forward. And then you get a chance to evaluate and know that you have to take something from a difficult situation and turn it so you can move forward. So I don't know that I went from, you know, sad to happy or happy to sad as much as, you know, you learn from experiences and you want to grow. We have to take what happened, as difficult as it was, and we've got to grow. And we've got to grow from it because we're going to be in this situation again. And when we are, we need to flourish in that kind of situation.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Excuse me, Brian. We've seen, I guess, from Brandon how even-keeled he is, how mature he is, and talked all season about how he's growing and progressing. I'm just wondering after Saturday just what you've observed from him and how he's moved on, or just what you've observed how he is, how he's doing.
Well, I think he's a competitor. A competitor wants to be at his best when his best is needed, and he wasn't. And so he wants to rededicate himself this week to his preparation, and he wants to go out there and be the best version of Brandon Wimbush. And that's all you can ask for from your players. So he'll go about his work today. We'll be demanding but never demeaning to him, and ask him to be passionate and persevere in coming back after a difficult performance. And that's what we do to all of our players, not just the quarterback.
Excuse me, just wondering, does he ask for...
Do you always get choked up when I talk with you?
It's winter time, got a little cold going on. Why, do you think that I do?
No, I was just... I didn't think I was that bad of a guy.
No, I got a little cold. Just wondering, does he ask for more advice or help after struggling from you or from Chip or Tom? I don't know what he
Brandon, because we're getting to know him, right? You know, his first year in the fire, if you will, right? This is the first year. Last year, he was, had the best job in college football, right? Backing up, and he knew he wasn't going to play because we told him pretty much that we were going to redshirt him. So, we're getting to know him in a sense of, being in the fire, having to compete at the highest level, and then, having to deal with the ups and downs. So, we're kind of getting to know him. How is he going to handle adversity? Does he have the grit necessary? Does he have the passion and the perseverance? I think he does, but we're learning as you are. You're asking the question, and my response is, we'll find out a lot about him, as he bounces back. I think he's going to bounce back really well, but I think the answer to your question is he's going to get a chance to show everybody on Saturday.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
All right.